In this lesson, lesson number 4, we're going to be talking about layering and assembling your podcast. So in this case, I'm going to go and import a music file and a show recording that I did so that we can work with those. So as we remember, we can double click here. I'm going to go to my Google Drive and I'm going to find my production files for my podcast. All right, so we're going to go in the elements here. Open this up. I'm going to pull in an intro. Do that. Come back here. And episode 2 raw. Let's pull that in there. Okay. Once that imports. Perfect. Now, let's hop over to the Multitrack View. Let's get rid of this. And let's start to put in the different elements. So, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to just drag over the different pieces. Right, so there's an intro. There's my raw file. Let's take a listen first.
Welcome to the Content Amplification Podcast, where you will gain insight into real-life tactics.
Okay, so that's that. Next, we need some music. So I'm going to go back to my Google Drive. Let's just see what we've got in here for audio. I don't know specifically where I might have audio, but here, let me go find a different podcast that I had. I think there might be some music in here somewhere. Elements. Yeah, there's some hip hop music. Let's put that in there for now. Now, this is not the music I use for this actual podcast, but for the sake of this lesson, this is what we're going to use. So it's importing here on the left-hand side, and we're going to pull that in here and let that go into play. So in simple format, you're usually going to have a music bed, an intro. Sometimes the intro and the music bed are already pre-mixed into a single file, and then you're going to have your show elements. So I layered them on top of each other. Let's just take a listen without doing anything.
Welcome to the Content Amplification Podcast, where you will gain insight into real-life tactical and strategic elements to help you scale and grow your business. Now, let's get started with today's episode.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is okay. So in all case and purposes, it didn't sound too bad. But there is a lot that you can do to tighten things up and make sure that things are assembled the way you want them. Don't worry right now about the audio levels. I mean, you can hear the distinct parts. We're going to do that in the next lesson where we're starting to mix it. But you just want to make sure that you assemble everything the way you want. So let's go ahead and we're just going to tighten this up. And you can see visually from where it says...
Started with today's episode.
Hey, what's up? Okay. Now, if I want to turn the music off and not hear it, I can actually mute that track by hitting the M. So now I can just listen to these two parts.
Let's get started with today's episode.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Okay, so that's a little tight. We're going to move that out. We're just looking for pacing at the moment.
Episode.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Not too bad. So now at the end, we're going to go to the end here. Now, as we see here, the music file ends, which is okay because you don't necessarily always want your music to be going through the entire podcast. You're going to have it ramp up at the end and come back in. So I'm going to actually go back and I'm going to go to my drive. I'm going to actually pick my extra element. Where are we here? Content Amplification Podcast, Elements, and we'll take the outro. We'll do the MP3. I think that's what we're going to take. Okay, let's pull that out. Okay. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to pull that into the file here and the same type of thing. Now, because we had the music that was here, right? I recommend that you put all your elements on the same track because if you are adjusting the overall track volume over here, the elements should be the same. So if you got 2 people, 2 different tracks, or 2 different files, put each of those on an individual track. Then you can make the adjustments based on the track. Let's say I want to put that music to come in at the end. Let's go ahead and just grab that again. And we are going to drop it in here. Perfect. Now, I'm just going to blow this up a lot further. I'm going to pull this over here so that it kind of overlaps. All right. So let's just take a listen. It's going to get you the business that you deserve. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Content Amplification Podcast. If you have questions,
okay, right, we don't need to listen to all that, but that makes sense. So that in all case right now, in my mind, has been assembled. It has not been mixed. The levels haven't been balanced. That's what we're going to talk about in the next lesson. So when you're assembling, you just want to make sure that things are tight in their production, meaning there's no gaps between different elements, and that they each are laid out on their own track. So in the next lesson, when we come back in lesson number 5, we're going to talk about mixing this here so that the music is fading properly. The levels sound a lot better than they do by just randomly dropping them in. So we'll see you over in that lesson.